Hello everybody and welcome to One Player. Today we're back in foggy London town and we're pursuing the curious case indeed, of Dr. Goldfire. Now in the last episode we got just a smidge closer to solving the case, the murder, murders of multiple folks, 2 out of 3 in fact. So we're pretty positive Dr. Goldfire was murdered by his twin and left in the meat locker at the Bethlehem Asylum. We're also quite convinced that said twin went to the home of Charles Hall, we didn't decide that, and killed him using Dr. Goldfire's cane. Now, we haven't quite figured out the motive for such, but we are interested in finding out this kind of media intake leading up to the murders. Now, this is kind of the 19th century equivalent of checking out someone's Facebook after they've committed a crime. But we are going to follow up on the books that were left in Goldfire's twins' cell, or captive bedroom, if you will. The barred windows and whatnot kind of gave away some sort of captivity, and the fact that obviously Dr. Goldfire chased him down quite ferociously, and obviously there was some sort of confrontation ending in the death of the esteemed Dr. Goldfire. So, in the end of the last episode, we decided to go and check out the criminal brain exhibit by Professor Morris Benedict of Vienna, who was interested in collecting brains of the greatest criminals in Europe, including the brain Nikolai Bosch, the child murderer from Bucharest. We're going to go to the King's College Hospital. The admission price is only 2 shillings and 6 pence, so, worthwhile if we can solve a couple murders from it. And the other thing we're trying to figure out is the link between the robbery that we found on, where was this? Or who was it? I forget. Oh, Thurston Robles. So there was a theft down by Vauxhall Bridge. We know that Bobby Field was involved and certainly was a member of the criminal underground, undoubtedly. He died in a very similar manner to Charles Hall, which is quite interesting. William Bellamy was certainly exceedingly suspicious in all of this, but certainly we would have known if William Bellamy and the Goldfire twin are certainly not the same person. We would have noticed that. Who knows? Somehow they're going to tie in, but we're just not quite sure yet. The other thing I noticed that we didn't, in my kind of rewatch of the last episode, so I could remind myself of where we were, we didn't actually ever go to the ending place. So remember we had the cab manifest where we found 82 WC, 82 Hastings and 82 Tavistock. That's the Goldfire twins going both to Bethlehem. And then, of course, Bethlehem going, Goldfire's twin going to murder Charles Hall, then escaping out the back of there, going to see Sherlock Holmes. And then from Sherlock Holmes' apartment to the 76 Southampton. We never actually figured out what this was. So just before I started, I went to read through 76 WC, and I'll share it with you now. It's quite close to, as you might imagine, quite close to the home, the original home of Goldfire. So you can see Goldfire lived right here, 82, and 76 just down the street. So after his little kind of escapade after the escapade of the twin, coming back to a familiar neighborhood, kind of ties into what we know about, the criminal mind, if you will. And so I'm becoming more and more certain that we're on the right track. Now, 76 WC is owned by a particular Mrs. Warren. She seems to be a regular reader of the tales of the adventures of Sherlock Holmes, and it's with pleasure that she shows us her register. I'm guessing this is some sort of hotel. Only one person arrived yesterday in the evening, a certain W. Torbfire Goldman. Now, Goldfire, obviously the name of the esteemed doctor. Fire Goldman, the switching around, the the portmanteau, man, not really that right word. What's the word where you switch something around? I can't remember. But anyway, the switching around of that, you know, certainly someone's using an assumed name, and we can only imagine that it must be the Goldfire twin. Of course, W being the first initial of the twin, Williams. So Goldfire Goldman, yeah, he's taken his name. I think we're pretty sure of this. So, port of call, as we said, let's go to King's College, figure out what that looks like, figure out what's going on there, see if we can get some insight into the mind of this crazed twin, and let's see maybe if we can predict his next steps. I will put away the erroneous documents for now. I've also commandeered. I was using dice on I was playing this originally on the road because it's, you know, it's mightily portable, just the size of a book. But now I'm home. I pilfered a Monopoly piece so we can keep track of our whereabouts more thematically. I feel like this is a pretty good detective's hat. So we'll place that on the map as needed. So let's look through the directory and see if we can find King's College. I'm gonna go ahead and say. There it is, King's College Hospital 71WC. It looks like half of London has come to listen to Professor Benedict and see his collection, declares Wiggins as we take our place at the end of the waiting line. The queue moves swiftly and we soon step through the auditorium's entrance. Wiggins pays the young lady the price of all our tickets, very generous of him, and we sit down at the back of the packed auditorium. The room holds close to 200 people, far from Wiggins' exaggerated estimates. The room holds close to 200 people, far from Wiggins' exaggerated estimates. I feel like we're being a little pedantic there. I feel like we all knew he was being colloquial. The hubbub caused by such a crowd immediately stops when the clock strikes 8 and a robust man comes on the stage in the middle of to stand on the middle of the stage. Sorry. Shall I do a Viennese accent? Answer, yes, I shall. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Moritz Benedict from the University of Vienna. I'm happy to see so many of you here tonight. Tonight's conference presents an introduction to the comparative anatomy of brains. All of the specimens I'm about to introduce to you have been removed by myself from criminals I've interrogated at length. Most were executed for their crimes. The others died of natural causes. That's pretty good, I thought. A bit German, but similar, maybe. So then we fall asleep. You can read on yourself, pause the video. We fall asleep. An elbow jab from Wiggins pulls us out of our short nap at the very moment when the distant clock strikes 10. Goodness me. The speaker's still in the middle of comparing the fishes and the girai? I've never heard that word. But he seems to realize the agitation of his public and quickly puts an end to his conference. Then he's going to show us some brains. That's pretty cool. Let's try to talk with her professor, says Wiggins. We follow him and end up in the front of the professor, proud like a peacock in front of the line of amateurs who walk by in front of his brain collection. Professor Benedict, asks Wiggins, can we chat with you for just a moment? We work for Dr. Goldfire. For George? Well, where is he? I'm not really sure, answers Wiggins evasively. We should have met last night when I arrived in London, but he didn't make it. He should have been here tonight and I don't see him. That's not like him. Will you work for him? Exclaimed Benedict. Why would George need detectives? He believes his life to be in danger. What do you mean in danger? That's exactly what we mean, mate. And this isn't his handwriting. Moreover, he'd never proclaim such absurdities to be such unconscious motives. This isn't a country doctor, a psychoanalyst, or a charlatan pretending to cure patients by making them talk endlessly and analyzing their dreams. Burn on Sigmund Freud so hard. Hasn't told us anything we hadn't actually already figured out. So maybe we were supposed to be here sooner rather than later. Are we to go back to the drawing board? Let's think about where we need to. I wish I'd had this on a wall and then could put pins in it. I'd feel a lot cooler if that was the case. So we've gone to King's College. It's come up kind of flat. There's nothing really going on. Let's consult our case notes for just a minute. And let's take a look at our list of informants at the same time and see what we can come up with to figure out where we haven't been in this case in order to try to find some sort of, you know, I just need to leave it open. I feel like we've got a very nice examination of the exterior of the case, but I feel like we're not quite cracking into it. I'm trying to figure out where we would go. to learn more. I'm positive we're on the right lines, but how do we learn more about this mysterious brother? Obviously, nobody knew, or it's seemingly nobody knew that William, or sorry, that William Goldfire existed. Let alone, I mean, other than the housemaid who kind of beat us out of the Goldfire house with a broom. I'm sorry to say I've just knocked my hat off the map and I can't find it, so that's a shame. It's gone forever. So no more marking our progress on the map. But obviously at the moment we're kind of stuck not really making any progress at all. It's also hard to decipher when we're actually done. You know, like how do we know when we're done? I mean, I feel like we have a very, I think we've got quite a clear understanding of how the crime happened. It's just like why it happened, but I'm not sure that we need to know that to actually go back to Sherlock Holmes and tell him what we found. I mean, it's quite possible we could just go let him know and see what he says. I don't know. Let's go. I mean, let's just kind of go down our list of informants, and maybe we just go see what we can find. The archivist, sorry, 14WC. I don't think there's going to be any archives in regards to this. 14. Oh, okay, here we go. Disraeli tells us about what he knows about Bobby Fields. What a case. Got out of jail recently. These last few years he's been going in and out non-stop. I've seen that he's always operated the same way, easily identified, and he was stupid enough to leave clues behind, which he definitely did. He worked with Robert Hitchin often enough. We haven't heard of that person. Field is at the Hagwood Flop House on Sun Street, he told us when he left Millbank. Hitchin gave us a fake address, and we don't know where to find him. Let's see if we can work through some of these boarding houses. Maybe there's some clues there.
Let's start with the top, and we'll just work down, shall we? So then 7 northwest, just to see if there's anything that we can find. Let's do southeast first, I guess it's first in the book. So 30 southeast isn't no, 59 southeast no, there's no southeast in here. Then we've got 7 northwest, southwest, nothing there, no.
Oh, I missed some. But oh my goodness, Mrs. Oh, Hagwoods! Oh, finally. Okay, 7 EC, that must be something in here. Mrs. Hagwoods. Oh boy, here we go. Yes, the poor boy lives with me. The police have searched all of his things this morning. It's a disgrace. Can we also take a look at his things? We're trying to find out what happened to Bobby. Sure, this way, young man, you and your band. The owner, a middle-aged woman, has us climb the stairs for a small corridor. She unlocks the door and leads us to a tight room. There isn't much here that belongs to Bobby. The room is rented, furnished, and he didn't bring many things when he moved in a few weeks ago. Can we look through his things? Wiggins asked courteously. Sure, it's all there. I was planning on wrapping them up tomorrow. I don't know if that boy has family would want these back, but I do need to get the room ready for the next renter. After 20 minutes of searching through the belongings scattered across the room, we don't find anything significant. There are a few clothes, the usual toiletry items, a battered leather briefcase, empty, a few newspapers and magazines, a paper with the following note. R.H. the Borough, 86 South Southwark Street. Is that South? Yeah, Southwark, I think it is. Southwark. That's how long I've been living in the States for too long. I can't remember how to pronounce that. Southwark, Southeast, and a sketch. My sister's gonna laugh at me for. Excellent. Okay, this is important because it's a clue that we haven't seen before, and goodness me, we needed one of those. So, 86 Southwark Southeast. Let's go straight there, and then we'll figure out what this means. So, 86 Southeast. Here we go. Oh boy, all right, good. Hitchin's room is on the first floor. So Hitchin, let's just write this down because I haven't bothered to. So 76 Southampton is, we'll say Torb Fire Goldman, i.e. fake name. What else did we find out? Nothing really. The Viennese guy was like, yeah, not Goldfire's handwriting. And then now we're back on the trail of Bobby Fields. So Fields stayed, or Fields ran around with Robert Hitchin, who lived 86 southeast. And of course, if we go back to that sketch, I think it said RH. Yeah, RH, the borough, 86 Southwark Street. Yeah, so this is Robert Hitchens' address. Oh, this looks an awful lot. Let me move the map just a slight bit for you. Just as I'm reviewing, it looks an awful lot like the Millbank prison. And as we know, 76 here, 75 with the X on it, I believe, is the location of the robbery. Let me just double check that fact. Southwest 75. I think that's. I'm pretty sure it is. Southwest 75. Back flicking through the book the other way. Yes, the Robles. Okay, so this is literally. I mean, again, she said the guy said he left a lot of clues. I mean, here it is. He's literally written an exclamation point on the prison because he doesn't like going back to prison, and then an X on the house that he plans to burgle. Now, obviously, his body was found right here, unfortunately for him. So he didn't make it much. He didn't make it very far off this map. But we do have Hitchens' address, 86 Southwark. So yes, let's go read that entry and hopefully get a step closer. Hitchens' room is on the first floor. The landlady is at the bottom of the stairs with a platter containing a bowl nearly overflowing with soup. Is he in? Asked Wiggins. Yes, he's sick. The soup is for him. Would you like me to bring it to him? Thank you, young man. My feet are grateful for not having to go up and down these stairs. She hands the platter to Wiggins and returns to her kitchen. Wiggins goes up with the platter without spilling a single drop of soup. I like that. It's kind of a little flavour, you know. It's like, Wiggins, he's not nervous about this. He's done this before. And we open the door to the room for him. It's well lit and clean. Against the far wall, a man in the bed is reading a cheap horror magazine. He turns to us as we enter. Who are you? What do you want? He shouts, which makes him cough. It doesn't matter who we are. What do you know about Bobby Field's death? This time the young man, pale and obviously exhausted, speaks more softly. Bobby, I know nothing. But if I found the one who smashed him in there, it would be hell. Bobby was my friend. We're investigating at the request of another one of his friends, Porky Shinwell. Does that clear up your memory? If you know Porky, it's all right. Bobby came to see me a few days ago. Not a hard one, just let him know if a copper was coming and from what door so that he could get out of the way. But I'm so sick I couldn't even get out of bed. As if to confirm his statement, Hitchens noisily coughs again. He takes a sip of water, then resumes. I told him I couldn't help him. If I'd have been there, he'd still be alive. Do you know if he asked for someone else to help? He mentioned another guy, a nosy one who could surely do the trick. He said even he could do at least that, or something along those lines. Hope you feel better soon. Thanks, and I hope you find Bobby's killer. He was a good friend. You know what? I'm fed up with all these dead ends. So, obviously, I think actually now we're quite certain Bellamy was the killer of Bobby Fields. Okay, so we're flitting backwards and forwards again. This has left us to another kind of dead end. Again, I'm pretty convinced of the guilt of William Bellamy in the Bobby Fields murder, but again, attaching him to anything to do with Goldfire is not really working. So Hitchens, who lived at 76, I think. I wish I had my hat. Somewhere in the southeast, anyway. Sick, and then replaced by someone nosy as Fields' accomplice. That says accomplice. Yeah, okay. Let's go back to our informants, because that seemed to be helping a little bit. Government, politics, social columnist, telegraphs, that didn't really work. Lawyer at the Old Bailey, 36 EC. I don't think we need to go see a lawyer, but let's just double check. No, 36 is pointing us back to Bobby Field, so that makes sense. What about other clues we maybe missed in Goldfire's home. We had to leave quite quickly, and of course then we got all wrapped up in finding the person who had escaped from the room, if you will. Why don't we go back there, 82WC. Let's just see if there's anything to find in his study, you know. Oh, sweet London town, if you're out and about in the boroughs, fashion capital of the world, and you're trying to solve yourself some murders, some burglaries, some murder burglaries, you're going to want to look fresh when you run into your suspects. Well, luckily for you, visit the newly minted one-player Teespring store using the link in the description of this video. Use the code SHERLOCK for 15% off of your purchase, and go get 'em, Tiger. Back to the show. So I'm back here at Goldfire's apartment. I mean, not literally, because we're probably not allowed in after that lady chases out, but I'm back here reviewing my photographic memory, which I absolutely possess. And one interesting thing that stood out to me is, again, on this family portrait, which is the family portrait, which is how we kind of came to find that, or came to assume that Goldfire had some sort of a brother, 2 sons, see here. But there's a beautiful couple, 2 sons, a second young woman, and a young man with a heavy mustache. Wiggins observes, "Damn, it looks like a younger version of the governess." Now, that is interesting to me, because if it is a younger version of the governess, surely we could probably find where she is and learn a little bit more about the childhood of both William and George. So let's see if we can find something to do with the governess, possibly here, Mycroft Holmes, a source of information for everything to do with government and politics. That might be a good place to start. So yes, I do think like we've maybe found something else to follow up on. Walter Goldfire was an active politician from the old generation, but it's public knowledge he was on the shortlist for the post of Prime Minister when he left public life under the pretense of personal problems. As far as I know, nothing in his political career justified his retirement. He never returned to the forefront, asked Wiggins. No, he remained a hermit until his death. It's the sad, surprising, and short story of W. Goldfire, Member of Parliament. Mycroft picks up today's Times and begins to read it. Well, that's not that helpful, but it does suggest that something kept him hermited, and it's probably the twins. And of course, the death of his wife died. Agnes died before Walter, of course. Certainly, he probably left politics upon his wife's death, but I wonder if we can find out. I wonder if we can find out more about that. We've already been to Somerset House to find the archives of birth, deaths, and marriages, because we used that to find out. To find that Goldfire did indeed have a twin. But I wonder if there is something else that we can... Agnes Engels. Who's in the directory that we have? Well, obviously there's lots of people in the directory we haven't talked to, but I wonder Agnes Engels was the name of was the maiden name of Goldfire's mother. I wonder if Jewel or Wallace are any relation. Maybe we can find out what happened from there. 47 EC. I'm sorry, but I can't help you. Agnes Engels isn't related to me, and I've never met her. All right, well, let's get start. Engels Wallace, 50 SE. Wallace Engels greets us in his living room and chats with us a while waiting for tea. A servant serves us and leaves us comfortably settled in with our host. Wallace Engels, Agnes's Goldfire's younger brother. Okay, Uncle Wallace. We're looking for the Baroness. Was that what it was? No, Governess, sorry. Baroness. Governess, question mark, who? Wallace Engels, uncle of Goldfire. And he lives where, sorry? 50 SE. Okay. I'll say younger governess in the photo of the, like, children. That's people. There's lots of people in that photograph. See this. All right, yeah, there we go. I'll remember that. Freshly arrived into his 60s, seems inclined to talk about his late sister and her husband. Walter was one of the most gifted politicians of his time. He certainly would have become Prime Minister had he continued on his way, and Agnes was a good person, the ideal companion for Walter in his political ascension. The family always had doubts on the subject of Agnes's death. Mr. Engle's voice becomes soft and filled with sadness. Her death seemed troubling and quite premature. Troubling, inquires Wiggins. It's not that uncommon when someone dies young in an unexplained way. I kind of feel like it is quite uncommon, actually. Of course. However, in the case of Agnes's death, it was different. Sure, Dr. Hawley... Oh. Okay, all right. Hold on. Dr. Hall ruled death an accident. This is getting spicy. Okay. Concluded it was an accident, but there was a dark side to it which was never cleared up. Why did Walter abandon his career, move to the countryside with the children, fire their tutor? The children never managed to adapt. In any case, I never saw them again after my sister's death. Can you tell us more about the children and their tutor? That could help us greatly. You must forgive an old man's failing memory. I haven't thought about them in a long time. The children seemed to appreciate the young man. He stayed with them 2 or 3 years longer than any other tutor. Do you remember his name? Attard or Arpchad? I'm not sure. I do know, after his dismissal, he opened a bookshop. Oh boy, this is some good stuff. This is the young man, of course, in the photograph. I'm sure of it. Okay, all right, I'm getting excited. He opened a bookshop. One last thing, Mr. Ingalls. When did you see Dr. Goldfire for the last time? At Walter's funeral. Good gracious, that must be over 10 years ago. I've sometimes seen his name in the papers, but never tried to renew the relationship. I don't know what happened to William on his father's death. So he, of course, knows about. All right, bookshop. We know that there's a section for bookshops, so let us go and find out about this tutor. All right, I feel like this is the break in the case we were looking for. Bookshop. Booksellers. Okay, we don't have anyone immediately that comes to mind. Gilbert and Field, Hatchards. Oh, Hatchards, maybe? Artard, Arpchart, Bumpus, Southern, Double, Pickering, Quaritch, and Stevens. I'm gonna go ahead and say Hatchard is probably the closest to that. 63 Northwest. If he's still in business, of course, but let's see. 63 Northwest. Let's go track this fella down. Oh. Yeah, another German accent for me to do. Yeah, I'm Johann Hatchard. How can I be of use to you? Asks a man of about 55, standing bolt upright, blue eyes slightly enlarged by the round frames of his glasses. Were you the tutor of the Goldfire family? Mein Gott, that was a long time ago. What could you tell us about this family and about the death of Miss Goldfire? Excuse me, I need to sit down. Hatchard seems troubled. I don't understand what you expect of me. Dr. Goldfire has requested the help of Sherlock Holmes, and we're associates of the latter. Wiggins hopes this answer will be enough. George is a good boy. He shakes his head. But, William, the death of their mother, you say? You're still investigating? I've always had my suspicions, of course. Anything you could tell us would be valuable. I'll never forget that morning. William had been throwing one of his raging tantrums. I could hear him shouting and arguing with his mother. Then there was a cry, and I ran from the reading room to see that poor woman's broken body at the foot of the stairs. And at the top, William, who was looking at his mother's body, smiling. I spoke to Sir Walter and let him know of my suspicions. He promised that he'd take them into account, but the next day he announced that the family were leaving for the countryside and they would no longer need my services. He was very generous, of course. He gave me enough to purchase this store, but I've always felt as though he was buying my loyalty, my silence. This is the first time I've spoken to anyone since that horrible day. Hatchard crumples in his chair, exhausted by the effort required of him by telling this story. He no longer seems to pay attention to our presence, and we leave him to his thoughts. Oh my goodness. Obviously, Dr. Hall helped the Goldfires kind of write it off as some sort of accident. Of course, that's why William Goldfire would go and kill Dr. Hall, because he's the only other one that knew the secret, if you will. And so it does seem like William people knew he existed, but they just they haven't seen him in a long time. But of course, Dr. Hall is the only one who probably knew, other than this man, was left knowing like what William had done. Now that's pretty good. So now we know. I mean, is this? We still don't know where William Goldfire is, but I don't know if that's something we need to find out. I think this actually has been really good in kind of providing a little more flavor to the understanding of the family dynamic, at least. We're still coming up a little short on the Fields case. I mean, it seems quite likely that we don't really know that William Bellamy killed him. We know that he was involved. I mean, that's guaranteed. And Wiggins says that as much as we're leaving his apartment. He says, you know, he's too nervous to be clean or something like that, if I'm remembering correctly. We know why William Goldfire killed Dr. Hall. We know why he killed his brother, presumably. Unclear of why he gave us a list of doctors that he thought were trying to kill him. That seems quite odd. I'm going back to the first meeting between ourselves and Goldfire. Well, two things jump out at me. One, he was at the Carlton when a gunshot barely missed me, and we didn't go and check that out, so I think we should. Secondly, this is an interesting kind of exchange here. It says, no matter how I've managed to compile this list, that's the list of doctors that he gives us, it definitely contains the one who wants me dead. Doesn't it, Mr. Holmes? Yes, Holmes replies somewhat dismissively. If the man who wants you dead is on that list, then I no longer need you. Could I see it? You'll take the case? Dr. Goldfire says. I'll take care of it. An interesting choice of words. I'll take care of it, rather than like, yes, we'll solve this for you. We'll find who's trying to kill you. I do believe that Holmes probably knows that something's up. Why would he want us to go to these places? What is his motive here? I suppose perhaps because he's thinking that, you know, Goldfire's suicide note will be believed. You know, he's just looking to kind of wrap it up. You know, kind of put it onto a plate and serve it to us in the hopes that we'll buy it. But interesting tactic. And why are these two on the list? That's a question. I think I am ready to go to the end of the case. I'm ready to go and tell Sherlock Holmes what we know. Now I'm going to the game rules at the end. It seems that the fewer leads you follow, the better, which I would kind of figure the opposite, but apparently the fewer leads you follow, the better your score is going to be compared to Holmes. I feel like we had actually figured out a lot of this before, but now we're just kind of like adding flavor to it. But, you know, we're going to go to the end. We'll move on to these questions here, and then we will figure out our score versus Sherlock Holmes, which is his solution is in this envelope. So let's go through it, and we'll write down the answers to these questions, shall we? So, question 1, first series. Who is the dead man in the cold room? Well, that's G. Taubman Goldfire. Who killed him? William Goldfire. Why was he killed? That's a good question. Didn't like him. Where is the killer hiding? Now, that's also a question that we don't know the answer to, but presumably 76 WC, although we didn't search that, so we don't really know, do we? I'm not sure about that. I don't think that's the case, but maybe we'll just write this one off. Who was a witness to the death of Agnes Goldfire? Well, that was the German fellow, the tutor, the bookseller, Arpchad, but that wasn't his name, was it? Let's go find out his actual name. Harpchad. Harchard? I don't remember. Hatchard. Tutor. Okay, so we found that. Second series of questions. Who killed Sir Charles Hall? Well, that was William Goldfire as well. Why was Dr. Hall killed? Because he was paid off. All right. Who killed Bobby Field? We think that was William Bellamy. And why was Bobby Field killed? I mean, for the money? Question mark? Greed? Goldfire, I thought you were dead, cries Watson as he sees the emaciated silhouette preceding Holmes into the living room of 221B Baker Street. The man answers with a chuckle which interrupts Watson before he can say anything else. Holmes hangs his coat and his hat, and then walks to the fireplace to warm himself up. Sit down, he orders Goldfire. Untie me, demands Goldfire. I'll leave the police to take care to do so, answers Holmes. What's happening, Holmes? asks Watson. One of the oldest stories, my friend. Cain and Abel of the modern times, the brother killing the brother. This is William Taubman Goldfire, the twin brother of your friend, George Taubman Goldfire. A brother? Says Watson. I didn't know. Yet you've met him before, declares Holmes. Me? I don't recall. Yesterday. William himself came here impersonating your brother, your friend George. And you didn't catch on. One more proof of my superior intelligence. The man looks at Holmes with a disdainful look, then walls himself up in silence again. William and George are twins, Watson, but their resemblance is only superficial, as inwardly they are as different to Jekyll as to Hyde. William is a maniac killer since his childhood, and George a renowned healer who has become a doctor while hoping to heal his brother. He was jealous of me. They all were. Nature is surprising, Watson. Here are two brothers almost identical in all points. Aspect, intelligence, ambition, but with characters as different as Mendel's peas. One is peaceful, the other is unhinged. The cause of that difference is invisible, but it's there nonetheless. William didn't consider his brother and his colleagues as healers, but as executioners, the jailers of his personal prison, so he came up with his scheme to exact his revenge. But how, Holmes? There's one thing that every crook and master of prestidigitation knows. It's that men think they see what they're being told, even if they haven't seen it. When William came in, Watson, you were sure as many that it was George. He was claiming to be and looked like him, even if you perceived a difference in his attitude. It's true. Now that I look at him closely, I can see many differences, says Watson. Exactly, Watson. It's all about observation. I must say that when I went to the Bethlehem Asylum where George Goldfire was found dead in the cold room, I first thought we'd failed in protecting our client. But by observing the body more attentively, I started to have doubts. Why had he been put in the cold room? Probably to cause our medical examiner to err as to the time of death. So I ignored Goldfire's list and started to search into his personal history. I went to a visit to Somerset House and discovered the existence of William, the twin brother, a twin brother who was as unknown as George was famous. If you want to know a family secret, ask the in-laws. The maiden name of Agnes Goldfire allowed me to find Wallace Engels, Agnes's brother. He told me about Wallace's Goldfire's withdrawal from public life, the man who could have been Prime Minister because of the death of his wife Agnes. I verified with the boy's tutor, Johann Hatchard. He confirmed to me William's implication in his mother's death and his psychotic tendencies. A detailed examination of the fares of the cabs allowed me to determine the place he was hiding and while waiting to make a break for it. William, who until then had remained seated, indifferent to what was happening around him, seemed to finally wake up. I'm the only one to be of sound mind in this family. They locked me up because they were jealous of me. They hate me. My mother hated me, my father hated me, my brother hated me even more. He was so clever. That famous doctor. He and Hall had locked me up for all these years. Never again. William Goldfire leaps out of his chair. His hands are still tied, but Wiggins can't overpower him. He's tossed to the ground by Goldfire's contortions. Goldfire runs towards Watson like a rugby player, and with a shoulder slam sends him flying back towards Holmes, bringing the two down together. Goldfire keeps on running and jumps through the window. The glass and the wood explode in thousands of little shards. Looking out the window, we see Goldfire's body on the ground. His broken body is half on the pavement and half on the street's cobblestones. A dark puddle grows by his head. His leg is shaken by spasms, but it's clear that these are the final reflexes of a moribund body. William Taubman Goldfire is dead. Holmes solved the case by following 6 leads: Bethlehem Lunatic Asylum, Somerset House, Engels Wallace, Hatchard Bookstore, Central Cab Depot, Mrs. Warren's Flophouse. For this investigation, the lead of Jewel Engels, 47EC, is free. Don't count it when tallying up your score. Who's that? Jewel Engels. Oh, Jewel, that's the one who wasn't Engels' relative. Yeah, gotcha. I mean, I don't know exactly how many we followed, but let's open the envelope. I'm not sure. I feel like we've just found everything that they said was going to be in the envelope. George Taubman Goldfire, correct. 20. William Tobin Goldfire, 20. For purposes of bitterness and revenge, didn't like him. I'll give myself that, 20. At Mrs. Warren's Flophouse, yes, 20. Johann Hatchet saw William right after he's pushed his mother to the stairs, 20, yeah. William Goldfire, 10. In revenge for his involvement in William's internment and also to frame his brother, paid off. Yeah, I think that's pretty, I think we got that, right? I mean, yeah. I mean, the diagnostic piece, I guess I hadn't really thought of, that he'd been the reason why William had been locked up. I kind of assumed that Hall was kind of like, I'll give myself 5 for that. Maud Bellamy. Maud Bellamy followed Field, intercepting him right after he burgled the Robles with the intent of mugging him. Huh. What? I mean, certainly money is correct. But why? How do we know Maud? There is no mention of Maud in the case files at all, so I feel a bit cheated by that one. However, at the point and total the number of leads you followed, then compare the number of leads you followed to that of Holmes. If you followed more leads than Holmes, which was 6, subtract 5 points. So I just wrote that without actually looking at it. So Sherlock Holmes followed 6 leads. We followed probably a lot more than that. 125. So we've got 125 points to start. This crime is like completely completely unrelated. So that was kind of misleading, at least to me, where I thought they were going to tie into one big, like, lovely, crazy crime drama, but it didn't. That's okay. We got 125 points, or I don't know if actually we should count these because it's going to be a bit misleading, isn't it? We did get 100 points on this, though. And because it's going to be misleading because we followed a lot of clues here to get to this answer of money, question mark, but that didn't really get us to here. So let's think. We went to all of the doctors. So, I mean, that's like, we were misled into at least investigating all of the doctors. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 doctors. Sherlock Holmes was just like, nah, can't be bothered with that. And then we went to all of these, right? We went to the bookstore, we went to Wallace Engels, we went to Somerset House, we definitely went to the Lunatic Asylum, we went to the Flop House, and we went to all of them. But then we went to a few more. So we went to Murray to find the lockpicks. Oh no, that doesn't count though, because it's a different crime. We did go to Disraeli Bryan. Although he was about the other guy too. He was about the other guy. Hogg, I think. Oh, Mycroft we went to for sure. Pike we went to. We didn't go to the librarian. We go to the Telegraph. We didn't go and see Sherlock Holmes. So I think we've got about 8. So what's that? 8 times 5 so I think we'd score about 60 out of 100 for that. I plead innocence on this though, because I didn't know you had to try and take as few steps as possible. I wanted to get the whole damn story. I wanted to go to every lead we possibly could. I'm thorough, gosh dang it. I'm a thorough detective and I've got no qualms about it. Sherlock Holmes might have hop, skipped and jumped right to the answer. But you know, I feel like he's making some assumptions. They were correct, but he's making some assumptions and I want to be commended for my extremely thorough police work. That is the case of Dr. Goldfire. This has been Sherlock Holmes, Consulting Detective, and what a wonderful, wonderful story to start with. I've enjoyed every moment of it, even though it did get a bit frustrating where I felt like I was hitting dead ends over and over again, only to realize that we did really kind of have the entire story. I was also like, if we'd have got to the Flop House under, Torbfire Goldman and been like, yeah, he's stinging upstairs, I think that would have kind of give us an idea of that was the end of the case, rather than them just being like, yeah, he's here, or yeah, he checked in, but like not telling us that he didn't check out, for example. Anyway, that is going to be it from me. I hope I've had a lovely time. I hope you've enjoyed the series. I know that this has been this final installment has been a little while in the works, so I appreciate your patience on that. And maybe we'll play some more. Maybe we'll go through some of the other cases. I mean, this is a great little It's kind of, you know, it's like one of those choose your own adventures. It really is. It's like a great little read to pass the time. If you have enjoyed, please do drop a like. If you'd like to see more, leave me a comment and let me know. And if you're not already, then please do consider subscribing. Got videos coming out every week, and you know, share the channel with someone you think might like it. That will be it for me. I always say that and then ramble. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later.